Hi guys! Hello! This is Gosia off script episode. And these episodes, for those of you who are newer to Space Academy, are totally spontaneous, unscripted topics where I don't write and I don't read like I do for my normal classes. This is totally unscripted. I do have some ideas that I want to share that I have prepared in my mind, but it's basically all very spontaneous, because sometimes this is what's missing for me in the Space Academy classes, that I cannot just like loosely, openly and freely speak. So today I want to share some of the things, some of the experiences that I had myself with the topic of attraction and law of attraction, manifestation and creating of the reality, because this is something that has started to me actually quite early in my teenage years, but I haven't known, and I didn't know at that time that that's what I was doing. But before I go into that, I just want to say thank you to all of you who have sent me your videos, your community videos on the topic of standing waves. I actually have quite a few of them. I am not sure where to fit that in at this point, but don't worry, I am going to use it at some point, maybe when I talk about the creation of matter. I will see, because I do want to use that. You took an effort to explain those standing waves. And it will be shared. It will be shared. So first, let me share with you something that happened to me when I was a teenager still. Well, I had this idea and this vision and dream of going to United States. I am Polish. I was growing up in Poland, but I've always had this dream of going to New York. I was studying English. This was my passion. And I was surrounding myself with pictures. I was creating this vision board, even though I had no idea what I was doing, but I had pictures, you know, like people had in their teenage years, they had pictures of boy bands or singers or actors. I had pictures of Washington, D.C., for example, or New York, especially, traveling, and Route 66, I remember. So I had these pictures everywhere, and I had this strong conviction that I'm going to go to the United States. And at that time, well, we didn't have much money. We never did. My family is both teachers. It's a quite a modest and humble, you know, middle class, more or less, family. So we never had money to sponsor me to go to the United States. So my family, my parents were always telling me, what are you talking about? You have no one there. You have no family, no friends, because you would need to have some kind of invitation to get there, because at that time it was especially difficult to get a visa. So I didn't have any way of getting there according to them. And I didn't have any specific way to get there myself, practically speaking. I just knew, without any shadow of a doubt, that I am going to go. And what happened was that I found, at my college, local college, I was studying English, I saw an ad for the au pair program. That's when you live with a family and you are live-in nanny, taking care of their kids. Wow. And the meeting was in Warsaw, the capital of Poland, which was about 3-4 hours drive from my city. I lived in the north. So I'm like, I have to get to that meeting somehow. My parents said, well, you're dreaming, you're not going anywhere, forget about it, right? Like no one ever believed that this was going to happen. So what I did with my friend, with other friend who also wanted to do it, we actually went to the college class, but we skipped it. We pretended we are there, and we went and we hitchhiked. We went to the highway and we hitchhiked and went all the way to Warsaw to attend that meeting. We came back also hitchhiking. Everything was fine. We gathered the information. I presented the information to my parents. They were, of course, angry, whatever. That's a separate story. But I presented the information and I said, this is how I'm going to go. This is the program. They're going to sponsor me. They pay for the tickets. They pay for accommodation. I'm going to sign up for this. So, long story short, I signed up for this program and I did manage to go. I didn't go to New York at the time. I went to Kentucky and then Pittsburgh. But of course, I visited New York 3 times in my life. So that vision happened. I just had no doubt whatsoever that I'm going to be there. And this is key. You have to know. It doesn't matter that you don't know how. And I'm going to have another example with this. You don't have to have all the house. House, not house like a residential building. You do not need that, because the how, the where, the manner, the way will present itself. It will somehow scramble out of the ether and it will present the circumstances to you to match that conviction that you have in your mind, which is, I'm going to be there. And now another example of this, perfect example. And I was doing this without even knowing that I'm doing some kind of a manifestation work. So my point is here that we are always manifesting, especially with the strong convictions and actions, we just don't know. And when I was in the United States already, I had another vision. And that was, I wanted to go to the university there. I wanted to study. Because I was at the college in Poland, but it was a local college, just studying some English. And I wanted to have this international, cosmopolitan university experience. So again, I told my parents on a phone, through the, they were in Poland, that I want to go to the university. And again, how are you going to do that? My answer, I don't know, but I will. I have no idea how, but this is going to happen. And I could literally feel, and that's another crucial element, all the elements of already being enrolled. I could feel myself a student. I could feel myself picking up books from the library. I could feel and smell the lecture hall. And I was like, wow, I'm already there. Like from my head, from my mind, this was already happening. But I had no doubt. So what I did, and this was kind of silly in my parents' view, I actually applied to the University of Colorado in Boulder at the time. This is the university I chose for some reason. I think I wanted to study anthropology at that time. But the thing is, I didn't have any money. I had no idea. I didn't know how I was going to support myself and how I'm going to pay for this, but I'm applying anyway, just like a crazy person. My parents are, oh, how are you going to pay? You are wasting time. I even actually went and I called my Polish college for the references because I needed to provide with my graduation, list of courses and marks and, all that. I had to provide that for the university in Colorado. So I was telling my parents, go to college in Poland, get those papers for me. But they're like, how are you going to pay for it? This is ridiculous. You're wasting your time. Anyway, also, long story short, that university actually rejected me, my application. But here, few months later, life happened. Okay, long story again. I applied to the University of Queensland in Australia. I was like, okay, which other university can I choose? I'm going to go to Australia. I'm going to apply to that one. And that one accepted me. And I ended up studying 3 years. I changed the area of study. I went to comparative religion. And I studied that at the university in Brisbane. Now, how did I get the money? Well, here is the thing. I never did. I never manifested money myself. But I manifested the situation. It's a long situation. I got involved in a relationship at that time, a long relationship. And well, with the assistance, I could say, of that person, I was able to enroll at the university, and I did study. And it was a beautiful university. It wasn't Boulder, but it was I think it was even more beautiful and amazing, and I was just so happy. So two conclusions from this that I want to share is that you need to know beyond any shadow of a doubt that this is what you're going to do. And like I said, you don't have to have all the resources available. They will present themselves to you. They will just like scramble the elements out of the potential energy field, and it will become reality. And also another point here, you don't have to, sometimes it may not present itself exactly, like in my case, it wasn't the University of Boulder, but I was open to other alternations to the plan, and I was open to the university in Australia. So I think also here there should be, in my opinion, from my experience, some room to open yourself, to go with the flow a little bit. Sometimes it's not going to be exactly, but it's going to be close enough and maybe even better in the end. So you have to trust that flow. And another thing is that sometimes the resources may come in a ways that you do not expect. So you may expect, okay, that I'm going to make money somehow, but hey, that money may appear in a different format. It may be, you may be gifted with that money from somewhere. You may find it literally on the street, who knows? You may get it strangely from inheritance. There's just so many ways that you can manifest whatever you need. So these two examples are just two of the greatest, the biggest, impactful experiences of how that manifestation worked for me. And then on a smaller level, I had many other situations as well, many, of course, but those two, I always present those two because they are the biggest example. So in the past two videos, it was mentioned that the action is very important. Well, that's right. So in my case here again, what I didn't stop just at envisioning going to the United States or envisioning going to the university. I actually took the steps towards it, like applying to the University of Boulder, before I even had the resources. I stepped ahead, as if I was already in the possession of those resources. So I sent a signal to the universe, I'm going. And then the resources, well, that's a step behind, but it will catch up. It will catch up. So the action is very important. And like I said, sometimes you don't have to know for sure what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. How will catch up. It will catch up. Now, it may not catch up 100% always if your inner attitude and insecurities are are a predominant frequency. And I know this from the example of someone in my close family who actually took the action. They went and they sold what they had and they went to another city because they wanted a new life in that other city. But that person still carried the insecurities and fears. And that became a predominant frequency that was still blocking the emergence of some other reality there. So he kind of got himself stuck in that new city, not knowing what to do, and nothing was presenting. So along with the action, I believe your attitude is also super important. And now at this point, I want to share with you a video that Augustin Delphine from Chile sent us. And he's also here talking about how the solution manifested itself for him and how it didn't come in a way that he necessarily expected.
At the age of 22, I was diagnosed with severe lumbar scoliosis, diabetes, and L4-L5S1 disc disease. If anyone knows anything about medicine, At 22 years old, that is very, very painful and practically like being an elderly person at that age. And what happened? When they gave me the diagnosis, the doctor very kindly told me, "Look, if you do not have surgery, in a couple of years you will be disabled by the age of 30. Because the way this looks, I have never seen anything like it in someone your age. You have something like an old person's disease." But not a single word of what he said entered my mind. Inside, I knew that I was going to be fine, and that I was going to recover from everything. I had that inner certainty. I did not know where it came from at that moment, although now it is clear to me, because of what I know about my life and the experiences I have had. What happened? Shortly afterward, I met someone in Chile who practiced the laying on of hands at that time. There was no Reiki, or other alternative medicines that work with the hands at the time, but that person who performed the laying on of hands healed me completely from the scoliosis and the osteoarthritis. As for the diabetes, which was already developing at my young age, I used a remedy that they call a remedy or secret of nature. In 3 months, my levels dropped drastically, and they have remained that way to this day. Many years have passed since then. After that, I dedicated myself to the laying on of hands, to connecting with dolphins, and many other things have happened to me. I have verified that the mind or the brain that acts with the information delivered by the quantum energetic field of your past life, your stellar life, and other dimensions, acts at certain moments when you need it. And the inner certainty that you can resolve it, and that it is so, gives that direction, that energy, and you improve. So, if someone tells you at some point, "No, this is not possible," never believe that. There is always a possibility for change. The mind, connected with the heart and the body, that wonderful triad of thinking, feeling, and acting, which can be called coherence, is surely what will lead us to awakening and to a new world.
Thank you. This is another great example of how your inner conviction, your inner knowing overrides everything else, and it just attracts or reflects to itself the resources, and they may come in a different way. Like in this case, he met the healer, and through the help of that healer, he overcame those medical problems. But it started in his mind. Now, I mentioned going with the flow, that sometimes you need to leave room for going with the flow. Yes, for me personally, that's very important too, because the way I live my life is not necessarily planning everything and envisioning and then going towards that goal. Like it was said in the video, that you only have one destination, not 3, and you don't change between the destinations. Well, in my own personal case, sometimes I do leave space for various destinations to present themselves. So, for example, I would imagine, okay, now, for example, we want to go to a warm country. We want to move out of Finland and to the warm country. Well, we are thinking of a specific country, and yes, that's the destination. However, I'm ready to go with the flow. If the life presents me with another idea towards that specific goal of being in a sunshine and in a warm country, well, I will take that as well. So I think it's also important not to be too rigid and just be open to how the solutions might present themselves, because that can also sometimes close you to the possible, advancement of your idea if you are just wanting very strictly, very harshly, that specific way. No, you just relax into it a little bit and be open to different ways of how it can present itself. And this is also here something Susanna from Poland mentioned. This is just the audio she sent with some ideas of how this works in her life.
One of these powerful turning points, which called into question my previous system of belief about what this world is based on, was my professional work. When I was tired and sometimes angry, I would repeat under my breath that it would be useful to have another version of myself, another Zuzanna. And by saying that, speaking it and thinking it, after some time a new member joined our team, with exactly the same name as me, Zuzanna. In addition, several clients appeared, elderly people, also with the same name. Moving further, at some point in my life, I also had a dream that warned me about the power of thought and words, about their creative power. It was a long dream, but what I remembered most strongly were precisely those words, that I should be careful. So, sometimes I wondered how I could really test this. I thought to myself that I would invent some fairly abstract story. I wanted to learn what professional work in Japan looks like. And because I work in a non-governmental organization, such topics are rather unrealistic for me. Impossible. Truly impossible. So I repeated this, that I would like to find out, adding a few other elements, like perhaps even go there, because if it somehow worked, maybe that journey could manifest. But well, after some time, while I was also talking at work about this, that I would like this to happen, people laughing a little, saying, "Okay, nice, maybe you will go there someday, maybe it will happen." Then my boss came and said, "You will not believe this. A woman called me and they would like to get to know us and our work, the Japanese people." How is that possible? It turned out that there was supposed to be an international meeting in Warsaw, but they moved it to my city, next to my workplace, 5 minutes away from my work. And in this way, Japanese people appeared in my professional environment. More precisely, Japanese women. And I was able to exchange stories with them about how work looks for me, how we work in our country, and how that story looks for them.
Thank you, Susanna, Susie. This is amazing because you know what she mentioned? She mentioned that she manifested another Susie. Well, Susanna, this is something that seems to be following you. You know what happened? When Susanna sent me her video, you know what was the video that was sent to me next? From Susie from Spain. In a video number 1 of this series, Mind Matters, remember I published a video of Susie from Spain. Well, that video was number 2 video that I received after Susanna, which is Susie, sent me her video from Poland. So this is amazing because she's talking about how she manifests other Susies, and it happened. So I'm telling you, Susanna, this happened again. Quite extraordinary. Now, the topic of a shadow work was also mentioned in those 2 videos. And yes, I cannot stress enough how important that is. I must admit that I don't think I do enough of that myself. But if you do want to understand those inner blockages and, you know, why it's not happening or this, you know, digging into that part of yourself, of that inner psyche, that's so important. Whatever complicates the situation here, though, is that sometimes those patterns actually originate even before you were born. I didn't go into this yet in the Space Academy past lives, but yes, this is definitely a reality, past lives. We do continue reincarnating, and this is just common knowledge for the space civilizations, because they actually remember, they know. It's not like they believe in it, they know because they remember. Here we do not. It's going to be discussed why, but yes, it does prevent us from understanding ourselves more if we don't know these past patterns. I mean, for sure you have examples from your own life, like for example, 2 babies, you know, and they become different right from the birth. They didn't receive any conditioning yet, and right away they display a different characteristics. Or puppies. In my case, for example, I have a dog, and right from the beginning she was different from other puppies, you know, in her litter, and others were different, and she had a specific personality. But not only that, I want to share with you something super curious that we don't know what it is, but this is definitely something that she is carrying from past lives. And I'm going to share with you the videos of what she does. Since we had her, and since we've had her since she was 8-9 weeks old. Now she's 4.5. She is obsessed with pipes. Like outside, you know, there are these pipes, they're water draining pipes or something small, big, it doesn't matter the size. She obsessively runs after them looking for something there. It's actually so sad because I feel like she's looking for someone there. Like she's always like exciting pipe, and she goes there looking. What is there? Is there? And then she's like, oh, it's not there. Like, I don't know. In the beginning, I was laughing that she used to be that she was a rat in her past life, and she's recognizing her home or something. But then I'm thinking maybe she lived on the street as a street dog or someone. Maybe she had a family there or a friend, or she had someone there with her hiding and sleeping. I don't know, but she's obsessed with pipes, and this is an example of something carrying from the past and being carried from the past. So yeah, we all have that, and it's definitely super, super important to dig into that for that deeper understanding of yourself. Okay, one more point I want to mention, something that has worked for me in my personal life, and that is, and hey, it is not a cliche, it is so important, appreciation and paying attention to the positive details in your life. This is something that I have always done naturally, and I feel like it's been rewarding me with more positive experiences as I went along. And that I mean noticing anything positive. You don't have to wait for something negative to happen to recognize that positive. Like, you don't have to get sick to appreciate health. Be appreciative of your health, of having 10 fingers. Isn't that just amazing? Of being able to see. Wow, I can see. And then outside, seeing leaves move in the air, like small, silly and not so silly details like that. Like I said, leaves moving in the air. How amazing is that I can actually observe that. The sunshine, the food, the peaceful moment of looking at the series. So like million of things, because when you activate that appreciative energy toward that something, you are literally sending those waves toward that something positive, so you are activating more of that to you, because it reflects who you are. Who are you? You are a person who is observant and appreciative of positive things. Well, then you will see more of those things, because this is who you are. So I really encourage you to spend more time in those moments of gratitude for whatever it is, anything, and less in paying attention or giving so much attention to those less positive details of your life. Okay, the next video will be very important. Now, I am at the moment, I don't know when I'm going to publish this video, but when I'm recording this, I'm going now to France for the conference where I will be speaking. So I'm hoping to be able to publish this video somewhere in those days. I don't know when I will be able to write the final episode of Mind Matters number 3, but it's going to be very important. Why? Because I will loop it back to the whole disclosure subject, to the versions and the variants of possible futures and, for the planet, and how important it is for the collective to take responsibility of what we decide to envision, to what we decide to create with our mind. I will talk about the responsibility that more awakened people have in a larger collective field. So anyway, I'm not going to talk about this now. This is going to be for the video number 3. Thank you very much for being here with me today in this off-script episode, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everybody. did you get?